I've been thinking so much about performance. I
Oof.
I I can't stop thinking about it. And I've obviously, I mean, not obviously to me, I'm really trying to get rid of performance in my own life, which is tricky.
Hello. Welcome to the Fuck Suffering Podcast. I'm your hostess, Ray Hance, and I couldn't be more excited to offer you this I Ching reading and conversation with Jennifer Romolini today. Jenn is first and foremost a dear old friend who I am overjoyed to be reconnecting with. And she's also the author of Weird in a World That's Not, a business book for misfits, and the upcoming book Ambition Monster. She's the co-host with the delightful Kim France of the Everything is Fine podcast for women of a certain age. And we get into quite a variety of topics today. Vanity and authenticity, sitting in the middle of that portal between birth and death, because what else is middle age? Resistance, surrender, and ease, punching yourself in the face, game B theory, the inconvenience of grief, and I am so glad you're with us. What is Jen's question for the I Ching? What am I missing? It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm still bad, but I'll be fine. I mean, I know I'm going to be fine, but I'm still bad. I'm just walking through the...
Not bad.
Not bad, you're right.
It's really not bad.
It just is.
It's soft.
You're right. You're right. It's open. It's tender. It's soft. It's fleshy.
Open, breaking open. Oh. It's
fleshy, gooey. Oh, yes, exactly.
Everything you thought was unbearable until you go all the way to the bottom of it and find out how buoyant you are. And then you're like, fuck, uncertainty is a gift. I didn't need to resist it. That's what was unbearable. That was the unbearable part.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, I'm finding myself in that place today. It was like everybody wants to try and upset the apple cart.
Oh no.
I'm like, y'all want to push on the apple cart? But see how much you're going to push before it topples? Oh, I got news for you. This apple cart is pretty stable these days. So you can keep pushing.
Oh shit, that's right.
If that's how you want to spend your day, that's fine with me. I'm going to just keep loading in the apples.
Right, and keep it stable.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, I see what you're doing. That's fine. I'll adapt. I know I'm not going to change your behavior, so I'm just going to set a little boundary around what I'm going to do today.
Well, it's the addiction to the reaction, right? Like I love reacting. That's the thing. I don't love what happens later, but I love it like a drug. I love the stress spike. I'm like, ah!
But man, once you notice that, it doesn't have the same thrill. Mm-mm. Once you're like, oh, this is the toxic mimic of aliveness. And like it is hard to step away from that. If you're like a high energy person, that's like throwing that hot potato at somebody else is like a long-term pattern.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
It's so hot. Hold it. I can't hold it. You hold it too. Let's throw it around. This is a game. It's fun, right? You don't like it? Why not? You're supposed to like it.
Right. And also, if I keep throwing these at you, you can't look at me. You can't look at me. Exactly. I just keep throwing them.
Exactly. Look at that. There's another one. Hot potato. Like you're on the couch, you know? It's like, and then you're like, oh, how come you don't see me? Oh, because I'm fucking hiding. That's why you don't see me. But
I'm hiding in plain sight.
Absolutely. But man,
I have a hologram over here that
it walks, it cries, it yells. It's so convincing.
But you don't really know me.
And I resent you for it. Isn't that Doesn't that just complete the picture?
Totally. I created the game and I hate the game.
Exactly. It's the worst.
I know.
And it's so like, there's a point where you can see it, but you can't stop it yet.
You can see it, you can't stop it. And you have to walk through seeing it for a really long time. And that is the most uncomfortable. And you keep trying to go back and there's no back.
There's no back because even you don't buy it anymore.
There's no back. And so you're just stuck in sort of the murky middle of like, oh, fuck, I know this and I'm not on the other side of this yet. And I just have to be in this. And it's the escape hatch. I keep trying the escape hatches. I'm like, because I'm just like, I don't want to keep walking through this. I'd really like to be out of it. Can I just, hey, is there a hatch? Isn't there a bomb I could throw at this?
Let me put my drama turbo boost on this and see if I can rock it out of here.
Exactly. Bombs have worked my whole life. What the fuck? Why won't the bombs work?
Oh, fucking maturity. Like making the bombs useless.
Oh, I hate it.
Yeah. God, it is. Because once you don't believe your own game, the jig is really up.
It's up and you keep hitting the same button, expecting the pellet to come out different. And the pellet keeps coming out and you're like, fuck, I don't want that pellet.
And it doesn't like that. The bog does not let you go until it's done with you. It's not up to you when you come out of it.
No,
it's like, it'll let you know when it's done.
I know.
And not the moment before, because it'll keep bringing you back until it's like, nope, this isn't finished yet.
No, and it's funny, the things that start to come up, it's like, what's in my way? And it's like one of my big ones is vanity. And so it keeps coming for me in different ways, like I keep dyeing my hair and my hair is like, I don't want you to dye me anymore. I'm going to start fucking falling out if you keep doing this. Just fuck off. I would like you to just be the person you fucking are.
Yeah. That person that's right in between birth and death.
That's it. Just be that person. Stop hiding. Stop fucking hiding. And like, basically my hair is giving me a choice, like no hair or real hair. Like, what do you want?
How's your vanity like that? How does your vanity like a bald patch, huh? How you like me?
Exactly. It's just like, it's so obvious. It's like my unconscious is so obvious right now. My dreams are so obvious. It's just like everything is sending me toward the same thing that I don't want to be at.
Yeah. Well, you'll give up eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you do, you'll be like, oh, I probably could have done that earlier.
I could have surrendered.
There could have been a fair bit of ease in this whole process that I just did not want.
I mean, you could put it on yourself, but it's like also just societal. It's the whole thing. It's the whole bootstrap thing.
How much you take that in too, though. You do have an option on how much you consent to that conditioning.
That's true. It really is a choice. That's true. It is there, though.
There's a lot of things that are there. It depends on where you're looking, that what you see there,
It's true. But there is like a fighter instinct, right? Especially if you come from certain backgrounds, there's a fighter instinct that's really bred into you, right? In this country, in certain socioeconomic classes, there's just be a fucking fighter, fight it out.
We come from the land of Rocky.
That's right.
Like, so you find where that's useful, not where that turns into like self-flagellation and like punching yourself in the face. Right.
Sometimes though, the punching feels easier than everything.
it feels easier than the softness because it's more active.
Yeah.
Pain is sensational.
Right.
And it's sensation that you're in control, like in control of when you're doing it to yourself, when you're caught up in a loop of addiction or like even addiction to processes, like you're like, I'm doing this. So I'm still on some level in control of it because I'm doing this to myself.
Right. And you're also sensory seeking. That makes sense to me.
It's all about sensation. Like, which sensations do you prefer? And then tying a bunch of narratives to the sensations that you prefer so that you can keep doing the same behavior over and over again.
Right. 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 Because you don't know, because it is all about control, because you don't know what the outcome will be if you do a different thing.
Or who you will be on the other side of it. Like you might be
what you will have to let go of, and what you will have to let go of.
And what you will have to grieve.
Wait, I was just going to say grief. It's grief.
No, it's almost always grief.
It's grief. It's fucking grief.
Grief is what we find unbearable. And we're told that it's hard and it's unsightly and like we don't want to see it. And we decide that it's inconvenient. But when we really go all the way to the bottom of it, it's like there's nothing else that breaks us open to belonging like grief. It's like it's an expression of love.
Yeah, it's an expression of love, and it's in some ways the purest expression of pain too, grief. And I think I often say to people, you should wait to write about your experiences because you probably want some more time to write about them. But the exception is grief, because you cannot recapture that early feeling of grief. And so that's why we love all these grief memoirs, because they're so beautiful, because they're so in tune with, they're just so actively in the moment of what they're feeling, because it's so overwhelming.
You see everything is amplified.
Yes.
It's like you can see every needle on the tree and how the wind is like moving different. Like you smell, like all of your senses are just so expanded and so permeable.
I wonder when that starts, or if that is actually the truest place in this stage of life and beyond. I wonder if that is true always, or if grief is particularly important just once you reach a certain age.
Grief is just when we notice it.
Right.
Grief opens us to notice it.
Right.
Like we think grief is hard, but it's the greatest softener.
Right.
And we want it to be hard because we don't feel okay in that softness and that openness. It feels so foreign. And yet it's like profound belonging.
It feels so foreign. It feels so vulnerable.
Oh, God, yeah. There's nothing more vulnerable.
And it feels, for me at least, like failure.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The softness.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's such a tender spot, Jen. That's a tender spot.
Yeah. And it feels like in that failure, I will be alienated and disconnected.
From what?
From the people who are not tender. That's what I think it is. That's for me what it is. I don't know what it is for other people, but for me, that's the struggle. Because I worked my whole life to be hard because I wasn't inherently. I mean, no one is inherently, but I especially was not. And I worked very hard to fit in with the types of people that were that. Including just to some degree my family. I mean, probably that's where it all begins, obviously.
Mm. And then by being that, that's who you bring into your life. Those are your relationships, because that's what you're offering.
That's it. So then you find people who also have intolerance to the softness, the intolerance you have for yourself. And then there are other people in your life who also don't tolerate that. And so then, you're bashing yourself, you're getting bashed for that. And then you just keep yourself closed.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's always there, it doesn't go away,
No.
Obviously. And so then when you finally reach a place where you cannot keep it down anymore, you can't keep it contained, or the shell is breaking, let's say that, when you can't keep the shell intact. And then it's just a flood of openness and softness. It's just like all the feelings all the time. It's a different kind of sensory overload, and it feels just like what you were saying, out of control. So anyway, that's what's going on with me on this Tuesday in January.
Good time to stop valuing control then.
Yeah.
Good opportunity to move that down the values list. Oh, God. Yeah. Can't really know compassion until you surrender control.
Right, because the control keeps you critical. The control keeps you judging yourself, other people, really, which is always a reflection of your judgment of yourself. And the judgment just keeps you just in messes that you don't need to be in. There's the Ram Dass quote, "We're all just here to walk each other home."
That is the core of everything that I do. Yeah.
That's the core of the whole, that's the solution to the whole thing.
It is. It is. It is. That and Roshi Joan Halifax, strong back, soft front. It's not that you collapse into a puddle,
right?
But that you have that soft front with a strong back that's ready for action.
Right.
Because I've been thinking a lot about surrender and collapse and how different those energies are, and how you can only know the difference between surrender and collapse in the body.
Right.
And it's interesting because what you're talking about is that spot in between surrender and collapse.
Yes.
And it's like letting go of the strong back and falling into the collapse and sometimes that's just where you need to be.
Right.
Deep in that collapsed underground, all the way in the bog, and that's fine. But noticing the difference between surrender and collapse, feeling it.
Yes.
And that's because collapse is partly throwing that hot potato at somebody else, making somebody else responsible for your underground.
Right. And that's that sort of neediness and weakness is repulsive to me. Just that collapse is repulsive. So I'm over this. And in the strong back, I overcompensate with the strong back. I'm fine. I'm not.
But if you don't stop, if you don't go to surrender, then collapse is imminent.
That's it.
I'm going to resist surrender until I fall into collapse.
Right.
I did that in swinging from an avoidant attacher to an anxious attacher. Because I was like, oh, let me be more open. And then I slid right past healthy attachment right into anxious collapse. And I needed that. Those were my training wheels. And then I was like, oh, no, falling in love is not falling into a puddle in somebody's lap.
Right.
Expecting them to find a bucket,
Right.
So finding that strong back, soft front sweet spot of walking down the middle of that boundlessness and that structure of this human life,
Right. And that just being a constant that whatever happens and whomever it is that you're in relation with, you're in anything, that's just you as a constant, that you are not morphing and contorting for the other person to suit whatever the other person needs, to suit whatever the situation needs, to be liked and to be loved. So even if you have a strong back, you're not collapsing because it serves someone else. It makes them feel better about themselves. I think that was a thing I did. I don't do that anymore, but that was a thing I did a lot. I think that I masqueraded sometimes as a person with a less strong back because it made the people I was in partnership with feel more comfortable. And then you're betraying yourself, and then you do wind up collapsing because ultimately, if you keep betraying yourself's like, what the fuck? Like,
you've abandoned yourself into.
You've abandoned yourself, and then all bets are off.
Right. But then you get to step back on the drama triangle.
Yes. Right. It's your
fault I'm a puddle. I did this for you. Don't you like it? Isn't it pleasing? Are you pleased by my self-abandonment? I mean, when you think that way, it's ridiculous, right? Like, aren't you delighted by the self-abandonment that I've offered you instead of love and connection and intimacy?
Aren't we such a good match because I made myself a thing I wasn't?
Oh my God. It happens all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. We fall in love with ideas of each other.
Because we fall in love with an idea of ourselves that we're not ready to be responsible for or brave enough to be yet.
Or the hologram.
Mm-hmm.
Or the hologram that's not even us. That's just like a collection of party tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, on that note, what's your question?
What's my question? My question is, what am I missing?
Is it what are you missing or what are you not willing to see?
What am I not willing to see?
Usually we're not missing anything.
Well, I feel like I'm missing I'm missing some code here.
Okay, let's go with what am I missing?
I mean, it's what I'm not willing to see because it's probably right in front of me, but it's the same meaning, I think.
Idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have your 3 coins.
I have my 3 coins.
So hold them in your hand.
I'm tapping them together so listeners can hear them.
And so feel your question in your hands rather than thinking about it. Just feel your question in your hands. Feel the way the coins lay in your hands. Take a nice long exhale. As long as you can. Do 3 of those, 3 long exhales. Long and soft. And we're going to throw all 3 coins 6 times.
Okay. At the same time, three at a time?
All 3 coins together 6 times.
Okay.
And when you throw them, you're going to tell me how many heads and how many tails.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All right, 3 heads. 2 heads, 1 tail. 2 tails, 1 head. 2 heads, 1 tail. What was that, 4?
Mm-hmm.
2 heads, 1 tail. 2 heads, 1 tail. 1 more?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Your hexagrams that you've rolled are refuge and moonlight.
Okay. Should I be taking notes?
Oh, no. Only if you're on
I feel like I should. I feel, again, to be the good student.
You're fine to just sit back and take it in.
Okay.
So I'll read you the refuge entry. You remember who you are now. Protect yourself while you fully become that. Go somewhere where you're safe to be goo. Not everybody needs to know everything. No strutting about now. That kind of magnetism attracts too many rusty nails. Sometimes you stand in the light. Sometimes you hide in the dark. Now is a time to take cover. Now is a time to develop the skill to read the moment and surrender to its causes and conditions. Learn how to turn the knob all the way down. Hide your light under a bushel, a place where you can see out, but no one can see in. Much can transform under cover. Give yourself the protection you need. Let yourself be snowed in. And don't get out there and try to dig yourself out just now. This is not a trip to the Delta, hexagram 12, but getting under the covers for the weekend while the weather passes. Track sensation in your body without reacting to it. Let the fear permeate you. Your trust is not dependent on anyone else's provision of safety. There's no need to get defensive. Just take cover. Stay out of view and accept protection. Let heaven have your back, so to speak. Allow the shitstorm to pass. You've been getting pretty shiny, and it's natural that you'd start attracting robbers at this juncture. Develop a cloak of invisibility that you can wear and shed at will. This will give you more confidence in being seen. Do you even know how beautiful you are? The poet Rilke wrote, "All angels are terrifying." Are you scared of yourself, angel? Your own brightness? Or is the threat truly coming from outside? Observe and notice. Are you afraid of what your brightness might attract? Do you need a minute to consider how you might handle haters? Remain enveloped for now. Notice what happens when you remove yourself. Are you lonely in this refuge? Stop trying and reflect. How has the time of power and ease changed you? How and with whom will you go forward? On a new moon night, neither the sun nor the moon can be seen. You are in a new moon night, a pause between cycles, a time to keep your head down and plant some seeds. Go inward and notice where external validation has become overly important, where power and ease have become personae instead of being motion and stillness. What is only visible right now in the dark? What places in you are still untouched? Cultivate your truth in the dark and have faith that the time to emerge will come, and soon. Keep your own counsel, cards to your chest. For now, take refuge in the margins. Illusions disappear in the dark. So now you have one transforming line there. It's transforming into moonlight, like the humility of moonlight. And it's line 1 at the bottom. Everything is flowing out and nothing is taken in. Stay in and let things flow out. Let it all flow out. Sometimes fasting provides insight into emptiness that wouldn't come any other way. Consider a fast now, whatever it takes. Remember that not taking things personally is a low-key superpower, at least as handy as invisibility. Activate it. How does that land for you?
I mean, perfectly. Fuck you. Oh my God. My other question was going to be like about being a public person. That was my second question for you. Oh my God.
For the I Ching, not for me.
For the I Ching.
It's different.
For the I Ching, that was going to be my question.
Well, it answered that too. Yeah.
It answered everything. It answered everything. Everything. It was as if I asked it 17 specific questions.
So that transforms into moonlight. 15. Moonlight treads lightly. Moonlight appears and disappears discreetly. Moonlight uses no force. Moonlight carries source everywhere, but is not source. Moonlight does not forget this. Moonlight doesn't penetrate, she permeates. Every month as the sun sets, the full moon rises, and for a brief and shining moment, both great bodies are in the sky. She's not the source of light, but carries it, softly illuminating everything she touches. Moonlight doesn't penetrate the ocean. She rests atop, reflects, and shimmers. She is reflected back by the whole ocean everywhere we look and in your wet eyes. This is not about playing small. This is about the vast, permeating reach of humility. That which is modest reaches everywhere. No one even sees her coming, so stealthy and steadfast is she. Moonlight is always right-sized. Moonlight appears and disappears, reliable and discreet over eons. Moonlight is always there. It's easy to forget this until night comes. Keep that light steady and keep that light and steady touch in your own affairs now. You deserve gentleness. Do you trust it? Gently touch the whole of creation just as it is, this moment, like a loving mother, like the moon. Every month, the moon goes from something to something again. Be like that. Be full of nothing, gently luminous and at home in darkness. Wax and wane wholeheartedly. Give no fear. Reflect what's true in this moment, be it darkness or light. When there is light, reflect light. When there is darkness, be steady in the dark. This is the authenticity of luminosity. Don't try to hold on to it. Move with the cycles of nature. Illuminate everything, burn nothing. Don't shine with false bravado when there is no light. The world doesn't need more arrogance. Have you ever gone on a full moon hike? Find a high, clear place where you can see the sun set as the moon rises. Every month, this humble spectacle appears, just waiting for you to notice. Have you? Can you? Will you?
What are you reading from? Are you reading from your book?
I'm reading from my book, yeah.
Your book is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Your book is really beautiful. It's great. It answers all of my questions. And now I just have to live still. Now I just need to still live in what this is, what this stage of my life is, my journey.
When it's dark, be steady in the dark. When it's light, reflect light. But don't shine with false vibrato when there is no light, because the world doesn't need more arrogance.
I've been thinking so much about performance. I can't stop thinking about it. And I've obviously to me, I'm really trying to get rid of performance in my own life, which is tricky when you put out things about yourself, right? So it's a tricky, because you don't want to be performative, but you don't want to show too much of yourself sometimes, because you want to keep some for yourself, right? But then I've been identifying performance in other people, because when you're annoyed at something in yourself, it's a thing you cannot get away from. It's just every fucking where. And it's just, but anyway, I've been thinking a lot about performance and the performative nature of our lives, and how how it's gotten so much more performative, that we're all performers now, and we're all performing to an invisible audience. And how I want to take myself out of that, how I want to remove myself from this performative narrative. But at the same time, I have this instinct to have my work out in the world. And I know the game of work put out in the world, because I've played it for so long, and I know about self-promotion. I know the game, and the levers, and the pings, and the likes, and the dings, and the engagement, and the this and the that. And I've really been in that space of, how do I create work that feels true, and then get it out into the world without feeling false.
Do you know Game B theory?
No.
I have this group of wonderful people in their late 20s who are absolutely brilliant, that I follow, that are just completely mind-blowing.
Yes.
And so one of them introduced me to Game B, and you can Google it. So it's what you're describing, that the game, is Game A.
Yes. I hate Game A. I want out of Game A.
And Game A, the objective is to win, right? Mm-hmm. And Game B, the objective is to keep playing. And Game A is that, is the economic game. It's the productivity game. It's the game that is founded in a fear of scarcity.
Right.
And believes that resources are limited, wealth is limited, love is like all these things have to be rationed out. Like kind of like you're saying about keeping something for yourself.
Right. Right.
Like if you're in full trust of your life force, you can have boundaries around what you get, how you serve.
Right.
But you don't need to keep something aside for yourself because it's a limitless resource.
Right. Right. We talked about this with the hose. Holding on to the hose.
Fully open the pipe, it's an unlimited resource. So it's like game B is ecological. It's spirals instead of lines. It's emergent.
Right.
And that's more the game that we kind of need to be playing right now, because the only objective we can really have collectively is to be able to keep playing the game. Because if we keep playing to win, there's going to be no more game left. There's going to be no more resources if this mythology of scarcity is the one that we're most invested in.
Right. 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 It's the openness and the porousness and the parasocial. And this goes to boundaries, and I know that, but I'm not great at them yet. And it gets into the parasocial nature of public work and being a public person and what people want from you and what the expectation is of you, and the negative comments and the criticism and feeling like you're not safe, feeling like I'm not safe in that.
That's a choice, like the vanity issue, like how much you take in of like what is like what makes a woman valuable, what makes what sells.
Right.
But like what's underselling is, to me, like what's underselling is how many people are connecting. And then what goes under that for me is how many people are connecting intimately with what I'm doing. So I don't need the 1,000 likes. I need the 3 that are actually connecting intimately and engaging intimately with what I'm doing, because they're the only people that are ready for the work anyway. So I don't need to sell to people.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like
I 100%, like 100%. My book was considered, my first book was considered a failure by publishing. Yeah, it was considered a failure. And because it didn't reach.
So was mine.
Tens of thousands of people. Right. But I know who it reached.
Exactly.
I know I get the letters from people that it meant something to. I know the people I was talking to.
Right.
And I'm not interested in mass success. I don't want to be reaching all of those people. So I guess I'm just bringing myself fully back.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess if I know that, and I'm not actually playing the game to win, which I really have not been for quite a long time, then none of this other stuff matters. Then everything that I'm talking about doesn't really matter. If somebody doesn't like my work, the work wasn't right for them. Who cares? I don't have to be for everybody. I was never going to be for everybody, and I don't have to be for everybody, because if you're not performing and you're honest, you're not going to be for everybody, because you're going to trigger things that make people feel upset, and then they're going to project their bullshit onto you.
Yes.
I trigger people. I make people mad. They are so mad at me. They're mad at my podcast. They're just like, you think you're this.
Well, you're also, that's a very, it can be a challenging audience, women of a certain age, because there's a lot of flux.
Right.
There's a lot of flux.
Right.
So I just respect that, that there's a lot of flux in each person. And, sometimes you're going to get their anger. Sometimes you're going to get their grief. Sometimes you're going to get their rage. It's fine.
Yeah.
And it's really not, it's like that. What if that's just your work in the world to be that catalyst? And, in terms of like performativeness, like that's something that I've thought a lot about as well. And I think like, if you have that big pipe and you just have a lot of a big energy natively.
Right. Yes. And yes, go ahead, keep going.
Having mastery of the top of your range, so it doesn't tip over into performance, so it doesn't tip over into arrogance, is is a call to very deep practice.
Right.
Because you're being given a gift.
I was just going to say gift. Gift, because connecting with other people is a gift.
Totally.
Being a person that other people can connect with is a gift. And how do you fucking use it?
You don't use it. You allow it.
Oh, you allow it. You just allow it, because if you're trying to use it, then you're trying to perform it.
Right. You're performing and you're gunning for outcome. You're gunning for external validation and you're gunning to win. And that's game A. And we can't sustain that. Game A is over.
Right. Right.
But game B is still emergent. So how do we all let go of some of that old egoic conditioning and move into allowing and embody allowing and not use force? There is no force required. That's how I was telling somebody yesterday. I was like, the work I do is not hard. It's very, very soft.
And softness is harder, though, as we just discussed.
More challenging.
Yeah. More challenging. Fine.
You're fucking uncomfortable. Pushing feels great. It's like go to the gym. You're like, swing the kettlebell. Feels good.
Active. It's active. It's active. It's active. And it creates a false sense of control.
Very young. Yeah, it's very young, which has its place. Like that's what writing the I Ching book was really interesting for me, because it's like at each moment we need access to both of those energies. We need access to that yin and access to that yang, but it's the yin that is depleted right now.
Right.
We have so much yang, so much false fire that leaves us brittle, like the Wicked Witch of the West that, God, if you pour some water on her, she just dissolves because she's so dry and brittle with so much forced yang fire.
Right.
That the yin water will simply extinguish that way of being in the world.
Right. Right. Because there's
so when we start, right. And then when we start to allow that yin and allow that, like, be in the bog, be face down in the Delta mud, and like, whoo, it feels so uncomfortable if we're used to pushing. Because it feels like death. It feels like, the water being tossed on the Wicked Witch of the West, because it's like, this can't be. I can't be replenished. That's lazy.
Right.
I'm lazy. Rest is not, like, rest is fertile.
Right.
But it's not always productive right away. It's fertile first, then it produces. I mean, we know that from our own bodies.
Right.
Fertile first, then productive.
Right. 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 And it's just so easy to distract from the truth. It's just, we've created a world that just makes it so easy to keep us from this, to keep us in another kind of churn.
Just the identity turbine.
Yes.
That shit just pollutes.
Yeah.
And we keep it running.
No, I know.
We keep it to every cog.
I know.
Until we don't.
Right.
Until we agree to this.
And how to play in the machine and keep yourself, it's not intact. I feel like, it's become an all or nothing thing for me, and I need it to be a middle space. Like, I feel like it's like I can be on Instagram and be like, da, 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 or I can be completely not on Instagram and just be, whatever. I mean, it's not just Instagram, but this is just an example. And then I can just, be in myself and be in my own energy. And I have not found a way. I haven't found game B, is the truth.
What if both things are, game B is not going to appear where you're looking for it. You have to allow it to emerge. And I wouldn't be I wouldn't throw your self-compassion out the window like a baby with the bathwater about a certain amount of theatricality. Like, that is authentic to you.
It's true. This is why it's so fucking confusing. I don't want to be a performative asshole anymore. I want to live an authentic life. I do not want to, maybe I was never a performative asshole. I don't fucking know.
Maybe you weren't. Maybe that's your natural joy and enthusiasm coming through too. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Like, don't beat yourself up about that or think like exuberance bad.
Right.
Exuberance, false. No, exuberance, very true, very embodied, very expressive.
Or even performance bad, because some performance is fun and joyful and gives something. There's also true, you know?
Yeah. And it depends on how much mastery you have over how aware you are of what you're doing. How much are you noticing of how you're using your own energy? Are you noticing how you're using your energy and how it's coming through you and where you're directing it?
Right. Right.
Are you directing it toward drama so that it eddies in one place and you don't have to be responsible for being your authentic self in the world. You can just continue to do this smaller spiral.
Right. Right. And detach. There's a disassociation in that too, right? In creating the mess. And then you're in the mess and you're kind of like, oh, well, it's a disassociation almost, you know, right. It's like
no longer flowing with the river. It's over in a corner spinning on itself.
Right. And it's stuck too. It's stuck. Mm-hmm. It can't keep moving. It's fixed.
And it'll pull in whatever else is around it.
What an accomplishment. Yeah. I've created chaos for everyone.
Hey, look how powerful you are. Oh, I know. Oh, God. Yeah, the big pipe is a big responsibility.
Yeah, the big pipe is a big responsibility. I mean, I feel a little bit of a dirty joke coming on, but yeah.
I know. It always I don't know why I'm still even using that metaphor. I really need to retire it. But it feels like the straw in the cosmic Coke. I don't know. It's like, what is it?
Look, I imagine the actual big pipe comes with a lot of responsibility too.
Sure I mean, the blood flow alone. Yeah, it's a lot to manage fluid.
Right. How do you keep it going?
I know. How do you keep the big pipe afloat?
How do you keep
Who knows? One of the great mysteries.
Oh my God. Well, listen. I'm grateful to you. I'm grateful for you. I love that you're in this world.
I know. I'm so glad we're in this world at the same time. It's a fun time to be here.
It's a fun time to be here. It's a fun time to be with you.
It is. I'm so glad we reconnected. This is great.
Me too.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Fuck Suffering podcast with me, your hostess, Ray Hance. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, come to rayhance.com, REIHANCE, and send us a message. If you're interested in the book that I use to do readings on this podcast, it's called Oracle of Emergence, an Evolutionary I Ching. That's my book, and it's available on Amazon. If you would love to help us grow our audience because you enjoyed the podcast so much, rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And in the meantime, God, we really can't fuck suffering until we trust suffering. And in a wild existential kink, we are all in that together. Till next time.